Shall we begin?
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Enough to Keep Going podcast. This is episode number 225 for January 2022. We're going to continue experimenting with the new format. So, I'm joined tonight by two of my good friends. I'm SwissGuard. I'm joined tonight by two of my good friends, DBQ Hams. How you doing, DB?
I think I appreciate the fact that the new format is no format, or it is so malleable that we can make it anything we want. But no, I think, and also in some ways, this week demands that we talk about the biggest news right away. So, and that is obviously, I can't even say it right now because it's too exciting. It is that I have a PlayStation 5. That's the biggest news.
Oh man,
Nothing else going on in the world of gaming news, but I have a PlayStation 5.
that could affect the PlayStation in the future, though.
I know. Well, we will get there. I won't even.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. How you doing, Time Master 99?
I am good, thank you. New format, our new format, and new technology, or different technology for some of us.
Yeah, we had some stepping on rakes for the last 20 minutes. So I just switched it to an alternative laptop, hence the grainy film and the, questionable angle.
But for our audio listeners, it's always a questionable angle. So
That's right.
True. All right, we're going to get started. We can't not talk about Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Unfortunately, Game Logic was the one that first threw it on our Discord channel for us to ruminate over, and unfortunately, he's off tonight. And I have a feeling he's gonna give his opinion on the next episode that he's on. Like, he's not gonna be able to just sit back and let us, talk about Microsoft business. But for tonight and for the meat of the E2KG analysis, you have SwissGuard, who doesn't care about Microsoft, but you also have DB and Tao, who are both Microsoft aficionados and owners of Xboxes and subscribers to Game Pass. So, despite the fact that DB, just bought a PS5.
hey, equal opportunity, right? I'm just waiting for waiting for my Spyro the Dragon to be on Game Pass on my PlayStation 5. So,
reportedly $67.8 billion.
$68.7 billion.
$68.7 billion. It's expected, I think I saw, to be completed around June of 2023. So this is going to be a process. And, it's massive. So I would just really like to hear your thoughts, gentlemen. Let's start with you, DB. When you saw the news, what was the first thing that jumped to your mind? And as you've kind of thought about it, has your opinion changed on the acquisition, or, thinking evolved any?
Sure. I guess my first thought was, wow, right? I mean, it is both difficult to believe at first glance and incredibly understandable upon reflection. I think that is, and Tao, you're shaking your head as well. Like, you're nodding your head. Shaking your head would mean you're disagreeing with me, which is just a foolish thing to do.
I disagree.
I disagree. But no, I mean, I think it is for all the wonderment and hand wringing that people had when they purchased Bethesda for an unheard of, single digit billions of dollars.
Pennies compared to this.
Yeah, right? Like, that's fractions. And then, last week 2 weeks ago, we were talking about 2K and Zynga and at 12 billion. And now we're talking about Activision at 68, almost $69 billion. And from what I've been reading, I do have to say, as an aside, as somebody who's been following the game industry for the last 20 years plus, more so actually. I mean, following it online for the last 25 years plus. But to see Michael Pachter's name come back up for a gentleman who was always, making the rounds on game trailers, TV, and all kinds of other things, to have him back in the. And surprised that there is no other analyst that has taken the lead, but the fact that it is underneath or it's above what their current market value is, but also, and Tao, you talked about that as well, is they're kind of underneath where the value is, or that their value is below what they paid. But at the same time, it's also, given where their stock has dipped to, that it is purchasing for the future, not necessarily buying a fire sale of a company. Although with everything else that has gone on in Activision Blizzard, as we have, they won our dubious, Scott, what?
Wretched hive of scum and villainy.
There we go.
over
I
there.
like to think of scum and villainy, but I couldn't get the first part. Thank you. I knew it was Mos Eisley, but I couldn't get the rest of it. So, yeah, right. That was our unanimous pick of just the reality of what their last year has been, and unfortunately, the reality of what the last decade has been for Activision Blizzard. This is where it doesn't become that surprising. And Tao, I'm going to toss it over to you, because I think you had a nice comment in our Discord when this was breaking, in terms of fixing and buying.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same thing, just in general, a reaction. Like I was like, oh, and then I was like, it makes sense. Just, kind of after thinking about, just going after all these emotions, after hearing about it, um, and it, yeah, I mean, I brought up there like, hey, I saw a lot of people saying, oh man, 70, almost $70 billion. What, is it too much? Is it, is that enough? And I was like, you got to look at, some of the franchises, or a lot of the franchises that Activision Blizzard has. How long ago was Activision's acquisition of Blizzard? Can you remember offhand? It's been a while, right? Good amount.
Yes, I'm going to look it up while you start going through things. But yes, I
Okay.
mean, it was early 2010s, I
Okay,
believe.
that's what I thought. I thought it was like the beginning of the last decade. But obviously, you got Diablo, you got StarCraft, you got World of Warcraft, WoW. Um, you have Overwatch, and then that's just the Blizzard side, and then you got Call of Duty, and you got Guitar Hero and Tony Hawk, kind of lesser extent, even though at least Tony Hawk's kind of coming back a little bit. And Guitar Hero kind of made a comeback a few years ago. They were trying to bring it back, but and there's all these other games, and I had mentioned this beforehand to both of you, and like you have Spyro, you have Crash Bandicoot, which I always forget. They have Geometry Wars, which I totally forgot about that one. I didn't realize that was an Activision. I was probably published, but it's a pretty popular game out there. And, when you think about all this, and you got Overwatch 2 supposedly, hopefully, sometime coming out in the future. You got the new Diablo coming out. 4, I believe, right? Diablo 4 is coming out.
Yep. And Diablo Immortal on mobile.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I haven't heard anything about that for a while, so I don't even know. I'm assuming it's still going, but
there's active kind of closed alphas and a variety of things. There's a lot more going on publicly there than there is with Diablo 4 at this point.
Yeah. So I mean, and obviously WoW is always churning out expansions, and they've gone back and done what was it, like the remaster? What do they call it? I don't think it's called a remaster. Is it called remaster?
Well, it is a remaster of Diablo 2. Yes.
Not Diablo. I'm sorry. Of World of Warcraft.
Oh,
wasn't there some kind of like?
You mean World of Warcraft like classic?
Classic, yeah. So I mean, you got all that, and I kind of harken back to like when they first bought Minecraft. It's like, oh man, well, I think what was that, like $1 billion, I believe, when they first bought Mojang, however you say it, and people are like, oh, what, why? There's no way that's worth that. But you're not thinking about, when this company do these things, they're not thinking about, they are kind of thinking about here and now, but they were actually thinking about the future too. And Minecraft's just as big, I would say, or if even bigger than it was when they originally bought them. So I mean, it's in the top sellers for a lot of the systems still, even to this day, which I don't understand. Um, but I mean, I guess there's always more kids coming coming into the world, so they're buying stuff, and um, so it's just always going to be churning out like that. So I don't know. I just and me and DB were kind of going back through even the back catalog even before the show. Going back to like Pitfall and all these other like super older games that maybe a lot of people might not even heard of before, or maybe not in a long time. And they could always dip into that, and they kind of talked about that too. I think I've seen in recent articles how Phil Spencer was saying that they can, we're going to look back at past before portfolios, and when I hear that, I think about like those older games, like Pitfall and all these other games that we haven't seen in like a super long time. And I had mentioned like Pitfall had like original Xbox game back in the day, like 3D kind of adventure style game. So I mean, they can always bring that stuff back, and maybe that could be their big Tomb Raider, Uncharted type of game, coming up in the future, way in the future, obviously. But and I have some other thoughts too on other things, but I'm gonna throw it back to you, Swiss. I know you don't care about Microsoft,
No,
but what about
it's interesting.
Activision though? There's some things you
Uh,
probably played from Activision. Call of Duty,
yeah.
maybe.
Sorry, and my internet blipped out because it's been that kind of night for me.
Sorry.
But the no, I think I remember though. You mentioned like the old franchises and stuff, and I know we've had conversations about how like Activision Blizzard is very top heavy when it comes to like their franchises. So like beyond Call of Duty, maybe recently Tony Hawk, and then on the Blizzard side, I guess the Toys for Bob stuff maybe, but and then
But
on the
even
Blizzard
that's not
side,
really recent. I mean, I guess Toys for Bob has done Crash 4 most
yeah,
recently, but
and Overwatch is getting it's been around a while. Who knows what's going on with Overwatch? So there's they generate a lot of revenue, but um, as far as premier IPs, I feel like Microsoft would be more willing to explore some of the portfolio instead of just like kind of being content with just printing money with the franchises that are working right now.
I think that's a really good. Let me kind of jump in here, Swiss. I
Yeah.
think that's a really good point within the context of Game Pass, right? Like,
Hmm.
it does not need to be a big AAA game that deep of a portfolio. You could have smaller studios, you could have smaller games using those IPs be something that is helping kind of support and fill out Game Pass in the midst of tentpole games as well.
You with Game Pass, it's like variety and like getting the big titles on day one. So, uh, it's kind of weird to think like a mega corporation like Microsoft might actually be this acquisition might actually be beneficial from a creativity standpoint, which is kind of an odd way of putting it. But on the other hand, I look at as I thought, my first thought was also, wow, that's a lot of money, and um, I can't imagine that they're really going to tighten the screws too much on like Sony or whatever. It feels like Bethesda was more about um, deep in like solidifying some of their exclusive type of titles. You know what I mean? I can see a Starfield being Xbox Game Pass exclusive, but like a Call of Duty and Overwatch and some of these, uh, you know, like the Hearthstone. Actually, I don't know if Hearthstone's on consoles, but um, I can see them being more like a Minecraft, where it's just like we have this property now. We just want to get it in front of as many people as possible. It's okay. Um, but the I had a point and then I just lost it. Like, there's so much going on.
There is a
Um,
lot going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things, the question will be is how that all comes together, right? And this is not answers we're going to know for a long time. One of the speculations that I've read and I there's so much speculation. This is where I'm sure that we're going to come back to this as more news happens around it. The suggestions that Call of Duty could only be available on Game Pass, or I think there is still enough money to be made in the physical sale or digital sale on a PlayStation network, and they still get their cut, just like in Minecraft.
Right.
But I do wonder about, does it shift? Does the model shift? Right? I mean, in terms of Call of Duty, there's been the conversation of how much does it need to be an annual franchise, and the fact that Warzone is generating more revenue than Vanguard, it also speaks to that as well, right? Like, does it shift the model that if now, if you're making microtransactions, you don't have to necessarily sell the box copy every year for your shareholders. So I do wonder if some of that changes, if some of those dynamics, if Overwatch 2 gets rebranded in such a way that really Destiny 2 should have been, right? The fact that it's not a 2, but is it just a new version of it to some degree?
And that was kind of where I was going too with my meandering point. Was I was looking at Bungie, and when you take a look at like everything Microsoft's doing, I can sometimes they seem to like meddle, and sometimes they just seem to let it kind of go. But like a company like Bungie, they didn't want to be, they wanted to go do their own thing, right? When did they actually split off from Microsoft and like abandon the Halo IP?
So based on our last tracking of time, I'm going to look it up because
Okay.
it would have been, right, Reach was the last one.
Yeah, Reach was the last one.
And then Halo 4 was under 343.
So, a studio like that's kind of been interesting for me is do the most talented game developers at the best companies, do they want to be part of like the Disney Plus of gaming or whatever? Like, I mean, is that something that they'll see themselves and think, if I'm there, I'm at the top, or is it just kind of, do you have that like corporate overlord kind of mentality? Because I mean, we've seen companies go, Bungie didn't like it, then they teamed up with Activision Blizzard, and then they didn't like that. So it's just, I'm kind of curious, like if you feel like this might be a problem for some of, not only for the studios that they acquired in Activision Blizzard, but just like the Bethesda studios or anything. Like, is this consolidation kind of going to be too much, and just kind of, instead of bringing everybody up, going to bring everybody down?
I guess I'll stand on the side of, I don't think it brings everybody down. I think, there are still questions and challenges around how the economy of Game Pass works. But I think that those questions are less relevant when you are owned by the company that owns Game Pass. It is different than if you are a third party trying to put your game on Game Pass and how you get paid for that. In some ways, it has the potential to open up the creativity that you have. You have the support for large games, ideally, but also because, as we said before, Game Pass is about sampling and about variety, that it also potentially green lights more smaller projects because it helps to populate the drip feed of new games on Game Pass. I mean, that's the idealistic world of this, right? Like it does allow creative people to do side projects because it feeds into the ecosystem that needs continual content creation.
Yep.
The downside of it is that it all starts to mush together. I mean, the downside is it becomes what Activision was on a much larger scale, right? Like eventually everything got pulled in to be a Call of Duty studio for Activision, except for a few things like Toys for Bob. But if Microsoft, I mean, I think Microsoft's portfolio as a company is broader than just games, which also means that it is not as dependent on those big tent poles that Activision was, which should allow for the disbursement of talent and creativity, ideally. But this all assumes that Game Pass is a sustainable economic model of games, which we don't know because it's brand new, or it is newish, new enough that we have not lived through decades of it to know how it sustains. Even the sustainable model of a Netflix model, we're still learning how that works within the the film industry and the TV industry, and we've seen repercussions in terms of what gets greenlit and what goes straight to Netflix. And that's possible that we see parallels there with Game Pass.
Yeah, so it's been what 5 years to 2017, uh, almost exactly 5 years since Game Pass launched. So I mean, fairly new. Um, and I think, like you were saying, even kind of Game Pass aside, just hopefully, and I mentioned this in the chat too, like these studios that we're all working on um, Call of Duty can just get like splintered off and start doing other things that for themselves. And you have mentioned this also, but and something that Game Logic had mentioned in the chat, maybe bringing in Microsoft Studios and having them work on some of these IPs, that Activision's been doing, and kind of maybe vice versa, having these guys do something that on Microsoft's side. So I think I'm more excited about this for the far future, because obviously we're not going to see anything for probably like 4 or 5 years really. Probably because even the next iterations of all these games are still going to be like under Activision's like own thing, just because they're already been working on. So it's going to be interesting. But for short term, I mean, Game Pass, I wouldn't mind some of these games coming up on there so I can play them, since there's a lot of them I have played before. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I know that like I don't really have a strong opinion on predicting how this is going to go. I can see, like, earlier we talked about with the old IPs there being a flowering of creativity, and like you said with Game Pass, and then I can also see just like the soul crushing nature of a giant conglomeration becoming unwieldy. But
But I think we've seen that already with game development. I mean, think about all the studios that have spun off of Activision Blizzard even in the last couple of years. Or, our Pickz Playz assignment is to pick an irrational game, but there's been plenty of other smaller studios or a handful of devs who have gone off to make a side project. That is, you know, that is something that the market has, or that the industry has found a way to do, is that when that becomes too much, there's this is a generalization. And so, I mean, I think, right, this assumes that everybody has that mobility, and that's not the case. That the people that are making the most money on these games have a whole lot more mobility than the people that are sweating it out in the trenches that don't have that same type of startup cost and capital to invest in.
does anybody have any additional comments, or do you want to actually get to talking some games?
No, I think
Let's dive into some games.
yeah, I think we're good.
We'll probably be revisiting this periodically over the next few weeks, I'm sure. So I think I'm the only one that actually did the Pickz Playz assignment, as alluded to by DB, which is probably a first for E2KG, that I completed an assignment no one else did. So I played BioShock, and I played the remaster because Steam had it on sale. They had all the BioShock games in a bundle for like $11. include the originals and the remasters. So I've never played a BioShock game before, and I played probably a couple hours into it, and I guess I can understand why it's such a hyped franchise. They they did a very good job with the aesthetics. I like the storytelling so far. The sense of tension is very good. I like the plasmids. I don't like how I'm arbitrarily limited to how many plasmids I can have at any one time early in the game. Although they did explain, did allude to the fact that I'm going to be able to increase my count. So for my superpower things, right? But um, I'm a little bit. The one thing that I found that was negative was I'm not sure yet how I should be balancing the shooter aspect versus utilizing the plasmids. Um, Both are fairly limited, I think, in ammo, and I don't know if that's just because I'm relatively early in the game, but you definitely don't have enough money or ammunition to go blasting through. But I can't rely 100% on the plasmids either. The first one you get is like the electroshock one, and I was kind of pretty much doing that on every enemy, and soon found that probably eventually there's more enemies and they're stronger than me just doing a zap and a kill, um, which adds to the challenge. But I'm still trying to dial in the right balance. But DV, you're not in your head, so I don't know if
Yeah, I mean, I have played BioShock 1 and 2, a little bit of Infinite as well. Yeah, I'm it's fun to hear somebody go through it. I know that I played the first BioShock a couple years after it was released. I played it on PC as well. I actually have the games for Windows case for it. Yeah, but it does all the things that you're talking about. Like it is atmospheric. It does build that. There's a reason that it's held up in a game design type of way, even if some of those mechanisms have kind of come and gone, or that the audio log has kind of run its course to some degree. But it was doing a lot of things uniquely and really well, and that just the atmosphere and gameplay and the trade-off between kind of power dynamics of those plasmids really did make it stand out from the variety of first person shooters that were gun related at the time.
had you played it in the past or
Yeah, I played it back on the 360 um, when it first came out. I think I bought it like a while after it had come out though, and I didn't buy it right away, probably like on a sale or something. Yeah, and I was planning on playing this to see if it was backwards compatible or just get on sale for cheap somewhere, but I just didn't have time. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it for what little, unfortunately, I played of it. Um, and I almost actually bought it on the Switch not too long ago because I think they had a sale in it. That was another one that probably be kind of nice just to kind of sit there and play, handheld. Obviously, you want to have this usually on a big screen, but I mean, I'm sure it'll run fine. But yeah, it was
Yeah, it's been on
cool.
sale on the Switch for like $10 or $11 a number of different
Yeah.
times.
So,
yeah?
but yeah,
So it's definitely worth like waiting for a sale and picking up if it's like one of those games for me. Just I wasn't somebody that picked up a lot of shooters. I occasionally do, but just as a game that is held in high esteem even over a decade on, I do think it's worthy of that. So picking it up on a sale is definitely a good a good move. I've been disappointed by the hyped games, before, but not in this case.
you said you got all three.
Yeah, so I got BioShock 1, 2, and Infinite, and then the remasters of 1 and 2, all for like
Oh, okay.
$11. So
Did it come with all the DLC as well?
I don't recall.
Because you get once you get into BioShock 2, the DLC Minerva's Den is by the studio that made Gone Home, and so it takes a very different. I mean, technically, they made Minerva's Den first, and then went out and made Gone Home. That it takes it does storytelling really well. It takes a very different tact from the rest of the game, and the same is true with the DLC for Infinite, which then has you revisiting Rapture in kind of like a detective noir aesthetic with the little sister as well.
Okay. Yeah, and it was $12 and it does include both of those DLC packs.
Nice. Yeah. Lots of good game to try. And in true E2KG fashion, way more than we'll ever actually have time to play. So
Yeah. Unfortunately. So Tao, you picked up, or you've had this one, Factory 4, right?
Yeah, I've had it for a little bit. Yeah, it came back out on the Switch on February 2020, so a couple years ago, almost exactly. And I've seen I played it originally when it came out. And played it for a little bit and kind of put it down, obviously, because that's what I do. That's my thing. Because I had other things to play at the time. But there's a Discord server that I was on. They're always talking about Rune Factory 4. A few people on there, and I've seen this for months now. And I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna get back into it and just play it. And I'm enjoying it. I really liked it back then, and I'm liking it now. It's kind of a role playing game. You can do like farming and crafting, which is like one of the main things I like to do. Dungeon exploring, so you can fight and stuff. So marriage, which I haven't got. I don't think I'm close to even getting to that part yet because I'm still pretty early in the game. But yeah, but it's a pretty fun game. The characters. I think this was originally on the 3DS, I believe it came out. So it's kind of I guess it's not really a remaster. I guess just kind of a port, I suppose, from what I've seen. I don't know, DB or Swiss, if you've ever played these before. Um, if you know if it's.
yeah, I don't. I mean, I
There's
remember the Rune Factory ones on the DS, on Wii, 3DS. Yeah, I mean, this is the spin-off of Harvest Moon, right?
Yeah. So you kind of have those same kind of things you can do during the game, but and the one thing, and I've mentioned this before, is that kind of the chibi, a little bit chibi characters, which it's not as bad as say like Pokemon maybe. They're not as like kind of short and stocky like in the Pokemon games, but they're a little bit more uh, proportioned, I suppose you could say. So I don't mind that too much, but I I jumped back into this game and I'm like, I have no idea how to do anything, and I was probably like 4 or 5 hours into it. I was like, oh man, I don't want to really start this over because I remember the beginning kind of takes a little bit to get going, but I just kind of just plowed through it and kind of figure out how to do everything again. But yeah, I'm having a good time on this one, and I think the reason everybody was talking about this one was because the 5 is coming out soon, and I watched the trailer for that, which I know I was coming out, and I don't think I ever saw any of the trailers or anything for it before. And I was watching it, I was like, oh man, this looks pretty good because it's more of a like 3D kind of open world-ish, well, maybe not 3D, but third person kind of a view. So it's not like top down like this one is, and I'm assuming the other ones were. So it looks like it's a little, it's a little modern take on Rune Factory. So I was like, oh man, that looks pretty good. So I want to kind of get back into it and kind of learn. I'm sure they'll have like the basic stuff in the new one too. So kind of learn things and not be too lost in it when it does come out. I think that one comes out March, I think. If I'm not mistaken. I was going to look it up, but I forgot. So playing that, and hopefully next week I don't put it away since the new Pokemon's coming out. So, but I think that's probably what's going to happen more than likely. Actually, there's a couple of games that I'm going to be playing next week, but hopefully I'll get to talk about. Well, not Pokemon because Pokemon comes out on Friday. So, but yeah, I'm gonna stick with
So
it
is that
for now.
is Pokemon a day one pickup for you,
Yeah,
Tao?
yeah, I'm actually pretty excited about this. So I know I've seen a lot of comments that people are like just ragging on it like big time, graphic wise, gameplay wise. Just I think the concepts that they're doing now and that one seem kind of cool, just different. And I think the oldest one I played was like Yellow, I think, and then I jumped into like X and Y and then Black and White. I forgot what was after Black and White. Was it Black and White 2?
Black and White 2, yep.
Yeah, I never
Yeah.
played Black and White 2. I just jumped into
And X and Y
I think.
came after Black and White 2.
Oh, it was after. Okay.
Yeah, because Black and White were on DS. X and Y were the first ones on 3DS.
Oh, 3DS. Okay. Yeah. So then, and then I jumped to like Pokemon Go and obviously this one, Shield, the latest one, and then yeah, go to this one. But yeah, I'm excited for it. So I don't have that
I'll be
history.
really interested to hear your perspective of it. So
Yeah, I don't have that history, and like I know people, and I know they haven't said anything about this either. That the biggest thing on Shield, Sword and Shield, was like you couldn't trade for all your Pokemon like you could in the previous games. So like all the Pokemon weren't necessarily in the game. You could just trade like from past games if you had the Pokemon in your, I guess it's home now, but whatever the like the big bank. I think it was a Pokemon bank actually. I think it was called
yeah,
before
that's
that.
what it was called. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So you can like trade in and
True
out from
connections.
there. Yeah. So and that was the big thing in Sword and Shield. You couldn't do that. So you can only do certain Pokemon here and there. So I was like, I didn't really care. I don't care because I didn't. And I guess like if I played from like the very beginning and like I've heard people say this like they play from the very beginning, have Pokemon from the very beginning that they've been traded in and out. So that I might be kind of mad too that they didn't do that, but I just personally I didn't have the history, so I was like I'm just enjoying the game, like it's not a big deal to me. Uh, but tangent aside, Rune Factory 4, I'm liking it, I'm enjoying it, so I'm gonna keep playing for now.
Nice. I'll take the next game, but I'll go really quickly. And I put this in the agenda this way because it kind of leads into DB's first game. And I just continuation from last time I was on Grim Dawn. The PC played another round or played another session with my one of my kids and my cousin. And I like the way I can really the progression in it. You have a lot of different options as far as how you choose two classes pretty quickly. Like you choose one, and within a few levels, you can choose the second class. So you have a lot of
Hello and welcome
abilities
everybody
at
to
your
another
disposal,
fresh start.
but you're not forced to like go through the tree in a certain way, in a overly structured way. Obviously, there are kind of some branches like I can level up my lightning attack or something, but I can really max that out and just ignore some of the other abilities if I want to. So it's good there. Um, so far a decent ramp of getting loot, and the only other comment I'll make is I feel like this game, and it does definitely. I think DB, you asked me this last time about does it scale when you play with multiple people, and it does. It throws the little message up on the screen that is adjusting. But the same thing that I experienced with Diablo 3, which is it just feels too easy. My cousin and I are very experienced gamers. My one child hasn't played an action RPG before like this, so um, we're having to deal with the inventory and everything a little bit more hands-on than you know uh, you would with somebody that knows what they're doing. but we're still like mowing through the enemies. Maybe once or twice there was a little bit of a hesitation, and there was a little bit of I better use a potion here and heal a little bit. But for the most part, I think we're discussing moving it up from like regular mode to like veteran, which is I guess the hard mode, uh, just to give it more of a challenge. And I experienced the exact same thing when I played with a group of people on Diablo 3 several years ago. So uh, after I mentioned Grim Dawn, immediately Game Logic and DB were like, "Well, what about Torchlight? Did you play Torchlight?" And I still haven't played that yet. But I don't know. Was that the impetus for this pick, DV? Like, you're just
No, and the impetus was that the Torchlight Infinite went to a closed beta 2 days ago on the 18th. So it is only available. I had to install TapTap, which is some mobile game launcher on Android and so and iOS. But I got into the closed beta. I don't know that that's a real feat. I'm pretty sure they're trying to push as many people through. There's there's not an embargo out there. There's people that are posting playthroughs on things. So it was, I had kind of forgotten that this was announced. It was announced multiple years ago, along the same time that, Torchlight 3 was happening. And this is going to be a free to play mobile game. They've announced that at one point there was also going to be a PC port of it as well. It may still get that. It's developed by XD Inc. out of China. It feels like all the right menus are there to make this a mobile game, in terms of here's your season pass and here's your hourly and here's your, actually there's not an hourly one yet, but there are plenty of those in other games. But it has a number of different menus. I haven't played it long enough to see where all the potential transaction hooks are. It's also a closed beta, so some of those may not exist right now. Some of those may not exist in total. What I can say though is the game's a lot of fun. It plays like Diablo on your phone. It plays like Torchlight on your phone. The touchscreen works pretty well. It has a pretty forgiving auto aim. There's a barbarian, right? There's a melee player. There's a ranged assassin character, there's a magic character, and then in true Torchlight fashion, there's like your mechanic player, somebody who has some melee, but also has some type of, not necessarily range, but not necessarily magic, but some type of uh, kind of, mana attack that occurs as well. And you're moving through. It's got its own, that does not support gamepads at this point. So you're moving through on the touchscreen. You've got skills that you would within Torchlight or Diablo. You've got standard actions. The action button, you're pulling it in the direction you want to shoot or attack. So you can kind of, you know, you're not tapping and trying to aim the direction. You don't have to hold the direction that your character is looking to be able to attack in that direction. So it's that, in that part, it works out nicely. That it gives you a little bit of fluidity that the mouse control does. That the gamepad is a little different, where you don't have that ability on the gamepad. You kind of have to be looking with your left stick and then attacking. So uh, I'm gonna keep playing it. I'll probably talk about it again next week. It's enjoyable. I really, but I find, this is what a mobile game's supposed to do, right? It's supposed to be enjoyable for the first couple hours before it really sinks into you and hits you with the paywall. So there's not a paywall because it's a beta. So I'll be really curious to see where there's inclinations of where that might be coming. So, but yeah, again, it's Torchlight on mobile. I referenced Diablo Immortal on mobile earlier in the show, which is not out, and it's got the same aesthetic as that Torchlight kind of cartoony World of Warcraft type of aesthetic, and it plays out really well. I haven't tried it in a multiplayer setting yet, so we'll see. But yeah, as a game to sit on your couch and watch TV and grind out a few levels on, it's pretty fun.
So we'll go to the opposite side of the spectrum from mobile. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your PS5 and what you've been playing on it?
Well, I've been playing Okay, I'm glad that both of you are here for this, because I've been playing the game of how do I transfer my save from a PlayStation 4 to a PlayStation 5 after 8 months of, I put in my disc in my Series X and it downloads my save and I'm ready to go. That's not necessarily the case, but I'm not going to rant about that. What I have got things eventually transferred over is I've been playing some Marvel's Spider-Man, Marvel Miles Morales, and Marvel's Avengers, looking at all the differences between the PlayStation 5 and 4 in terms of upload, graphics and loading times. and the updates there. That I did purchase the Spider-Man Remastered edition because I had the disc. I specifically bought the disc of Miles Morales on disc in 2020 because I knew that there was an upgrade path if I had the disc. Um, because yeah, but it's beautiful. It's really pretty. It looks really nice. One of the things I love about the loading times, right? There are not so many loading times. It's very nice. Playing Marvel's Avengers since launch on and off since launch. Let's not kid anybody. I am not still playing Marvel's Avengers in any regular fashion, but I dip back in every once in a while. But I did not dip back in on the PlayStation 4 when Spider-Man launched because the loading times are they're difficult. They're just really difficult. And or they're, it's a great way to check my phone or to go get a drink or something. But Spider-Man on Marvel's Avengers plays pretty well. Actually, he plays really well. It's a nice move set. It's got kind of the back and forth jumping combo that he does within the Insomniac games. It's kind of got that Batman Arkham flow. He's got a spider sense that tells you when to dodge, which fits in with the rest of Marvel's Avengers. Some nice range attacks, the ability to kind of, it is PlayStation 2, Spider-Man 2 type of swinging that you're just kind of sticking it out there and you grab on and you keep going by magic. You don't have to attach yourself. It works really well and is a lot of fun. And I say that with a little bit of hesitation in my voice because when there's also Insomniac's Marvel's Spider-Man and Miles Morales, which are much deeper games to play on, that yes, I can take Spider-Man in Marvel's Avengers, and once I do the training, basically I'm going back into all the other levels that already exist that I've played through multiple times, and I can play around with this new character, which changes the dynamic a little bit, but it doesn't really change the game. And so, yes, while I have dabbled in both, I have, restarted Spider-Man Remastered or Spider-Man from 2018 and playing through, and dabbling back into that and appreciating the graphical differences.
So they didn't give him his own storyline then in Avengers?
Yes, he does have his own storyline.
Oh, okay, but it's all the same stages you
It
go
is
through, or?
not an expansion like Black Panther was, where Black Panther had his own maps and
Yeah.
kind of graphical cutscenes. It has some comic book cutscenes where it has some still images, and he does have a little bit of cutscenes in the introduction, and maybe by the time I get through it all. But then once you get through the introduction and the training, what you're doing is going back to do X number of certain things to go on to the next part in his story, which you do that by going into any different level, like do heavy attacks or do swinging web attacks, and or collect. You're trying to, there's a new aim plot point that you're trying to stop AIM-OM, and so you have to defeat X number of AIM bots to do that, right? And you're doing it all within the same levels. Some of the levels are more fun than others. Like, it's pretty fun to swing around the city levels with Spider-Man. I have not tried some of the big canyon open levels with Spider-Man, but it's the reality of that the gameplay is actually not so. I mean, it is really fun within Marvel's Avengers. It's not so bad. It's really fun. It is the fact that there are a limited number of maps that you just keep going back to and back to. And I say that and I realize the hypocrisy in that because I am somebody that still runs strikes in Destiny on a regular basis with a family member, but it's social gaming. And I guess if I had a group that we would run through strike, through the missions on a regular basis in Marvel's Avengers, it would feel very different. The fact that I played it and have played it mainly as a solo game makes the experience different.
So what I know that you were like last fall looking at purchasing a PS5, but as far as like the PS5 itself, um, did you
Just last week and a half ago, maybe. Yes.
okay?
So it was an after the holidays, early January. I got, I think this is the third email I've got from PlayStation that I'm, you know, in the queue or can be in the queue. And the last time I tried this in the fall when I was looking to buy a PlayStation for a relative, I got in the queue to, it got down to 8 minutes and then jumped all the way up to over 60 minutes and then eventually timed out and died through Sony. Right.
Mhm.
And so when it came back up after the holidays in the beginning of January, I thought, okay, well, I just want to get in and see how the queue works this time. And then it went from like 8 minutes to 2 minutes to 60 seconds. And then I thought, oh, am I really going to buy this? And it went from clicking on, from 1 o'clock to 1:10. I was in and out and had purchased it and was done. So it was very quick and fast. And I do know that I, for the exact same reasons I just described about the loading and the graphics, I know that there are things that I want to play on PlayStation 5. There are things that I want to try. I have been sitting on things like Ghost of Tsushima because after living with an Xbox Series X, I'm not satisfied hooking my PlayStation 4 Pro up to a 4K TV and getting the resolution and the frame rate. So, yes, this is very much a luxury purchase of I have everything. I can play these games at someplace else, just not the way that I want to experience them.
Um, I did some additional gaming on my PS5. I played, but a PS4 game, which is probably a theme for people playing on PS5s right now. So I played more Near Replicant. Gonna go through this quick because all my prior comments about the game still stand. Although we had, I played a level, the Mysterious Forest, and it's stuff like this that makes me sad that we might not be getting more near games. Sounds like we're not getting more near games in the future. And it was literally like you go to this village and you do a series of text adventures. Um, you end up talking to the characters, and through the like whatever happens, like you end up kind of going into their dreams, and they do this like weird thing where they break the fourth wall, where the game just is like a black screen with text, and you read the text, and it's like the narrator says, whatever character says this, and then the character's like, I didn't say that, and they start arguing, and then it finally just it keeps like descending farther and farther into this like text adventure, and you have to like answer some questions. So I spent like 25 or 30 minutes in like a black screen with white text within Nier Automata, which was uh, pretty cool. Like it worked. The little stories that they had in it were pretty cool, and I just like to see when developers have the free reign to do some fun stuff, flex their creativity when it might not be seen as, you know, why are we making text adventures in when this came out, like originally 2011, something like that. Um, so kudos, Yoko Taro. Uh, Tao, you played a very classic. Well,
Yes,
well,
very
that's
good.
probably more classic than your Automata. I shouldn't say as well.
Yeah,
This goes back
so
multiple decades.
yeah, it's yeah. So first let me preface this. I probably should have said this earlier. I haven't really played a lot lately, so that's why I kind of threw Rune Factory 4 in there, and this one Jeopardy. Uh, yes, Jeopardy, the TV show. So I played that on the Xbox. I bought that a long time ago, actually, a few years ago. and I play it off and on with my wife, but we've been playing it lately. So and um, it's I don't know why, but we played it like about 2 or 3 times I think over the last couple of weeks. And the last time we played, I was like, hey, they have a daily like challenge that you can do. Like there was a bunch of stuff I had seen that I hadn't seen before for some reason. So we had just played like a regular like multiplayer, just every person for themselves matches, and she just wipes the floor with me. Like I'm not even close to winning. So I get up there. I'm not negative money or anything, but she just she always wins. But I don't I have fun with it. I always like the I think I bought this with Jeopardy and I think maybe just Jeopardy. I mean, Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy was like a pack or
I think there's a
something.
pack, right? Or Wheel of Fortune or Family
Yeah,
Feud and or something like that.
yeah. I don't know if I got the Family Feud or not. I don't remember seeing that one, but I might have it. But yeah. So I mean, I've always liked Jeopardy. I always liked to watch it when it was on TV and stuff. So if I was home during the day or something back when I was younger before I really got into games. But yeah, I mean, it was just a fun little thing to play with my family, or at least with my wife. I think actually we tried once with my son, and this was even like a year or two ago, and it just didn't go it didn't go well. Even though they have like a kids section, I think, but it was just he wasn't enjoying it. So it's just the two of us now that we play, and it's fun. It's Jeopardy. You don't get let's say Pat Sajak, not Pat Sajak. I forgot his name now. The old host,
Alex
uh,
Trebek.
Alex Trebek.
Alex Trebek. Yeah, sorry. Excuse me. It's just like just a random like default voice that you can get. I think you can change it from male or female too. So you just have her talking in the background or him doing all the categories and stuff like that. So, but it's fine. We play the two of us, and then we have like a third AI person. So I think I leave that one like on whatever the medium setting is. So, it kind of gives us a challenge. But usually, even that person's like pretty bad too. So, but yeah, I enjoyed it. And, it's one of the few games we play together. And, she doesn't play a lot of games, but when we do, we play this. And kind of weird because like we play this and turn around and play Halo with her and my kid, and then or Minecraft Dungeons or something like that. So it's kind of a good mix of stuff. So Mario Party thrown in there every once in a while. So, um, but yeah, having fun with it. And then besides that, I just been playing like when I have time, I just Rocket League and Fortnite, which is I could just jump in there for a few games and play those. So hopefully within the next couple weeks, like I said, I'll be playing some other new games. So I have some new things to talk about.
Tao, have you gone back and played any more Sideswipe or whatever the Rocket League mobile is?
Yeah, I've been playing that too. I would say maybe every other day or so, maybe daily. Sometimes depends on the week. If I can remember it. Sometimes I just totally forget about it.
So, but it's stuck with you. I mean, I think as
Yeah,
I was thinking about Torchlight, and it seems like it's something that is easy to pick up and play. That the Rocket League
yeah,
has scratched that Rocket League niche for you on the go type of thing.
yeah. It's nice because it's like I said before. I think it was like 3 minutes, the 3 minute game, so it's even super short than the normal game. So I mean, you can just I can get a game or two in, and I'm good.
Well, pretty much coming up to the end of the agenda. Does anybody have any other games that they want to throw in last minute? All right. So with the new format, we're still doing bi-weekly Pickz Playz. Given the news with Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard, obviously our Pickz Playz assignment is Sony first-party titles. This was probably
It's good
drafted.
counter programming.
Yes, this was probably drafted before the news broke. But given that a lot of Sony first-party titles are being ported to PC, you have twice as many ways to get into SIE's stable of properties. Play one. And for anyone who does not want to go down the SIE path this time, your job is to find a title similar to an SIE port and play that. So,
Who put this one in here?
the thing is, well, I think it's a Game Logic pick, but I know you have that new PC, so
Yeah, I was actually
no
thinking of buying
excuses.
uh, not Forbidden Dawn. What's the old one?
Horizon Zero Dawn on
First one.
PC.
Horizon Zero Dawn. Yeah, because actually that one always interested me when I saw it.
Yeah, I
I was
could
like, oh,
see you enjoying that
yeah,
game.
robot dinosaurs. Yeah, that's awesome. So
A
I
little
might
bit of
pick that one.
crafting in there. There's
Oh, is
crafting.
there?
There's
Yeah,
exploration. Oh yeah, yeah.
nice. No base building though, right?
No,
No, that's all right.
thankfully.
So I might pick
All
that one up and play that one.
right.
If not, I can always go
Um,
back to MLB The Show and say, hey, it was Sony.
that's true. That's true.
It's a good pull. Yep.
I don't think it doesn't meet the strict letter of the Pickz Playz, but in true E2KG fashion, it is tangential.
I'll stretch it to the will. I'll will
Yeah.
it and into existence. Make it happen.
Hey,
somehow.
considering that only one of us played last week's assignment,
That's right.
you've got lots of free reign here.
The thing is, you guys have played it in the past, so you could talk about it. So it's good.
Sure.
But next week it will be Tao will be hosting with Game Logic. Probably articulating his opinion on the Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition. So that will be episode number 226 in 1 week's time. Until then, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Have fun gaming. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Oh, for sure.